I saw this Nexus G1 and just had to talk about it. I find these projects incredibly interesting, but ultimately I am not holding my breath. I'm not getting my hopes up. If you don't know, the Nexus G1, I believe, if I got my story straight and I got my facts right and I did my research properly, is an evolution of a mod to the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, which is kind of cool to take something that a company made, Blackmagic in this case, the Pocket 6K, and to mod it to a point where it becomes its own new thing. And one reason to maybe get your hopes up is that this Nexus project, they actually have some kind of official partnership with Blackmagic. I don't know exactly what the details of that are on paper and what it is behind the scenes, but it is endorsed by Blackmagic. So this isn't some rogue project, where they're stealing technology or hacking something together. This is endorsed by Blackmagic to some degree. And I think it is potentially maybe your dream camera. It's not my dream camera. So I'll cut to the chase. Here's the short and sweet version of it. I probably wouldn't buy this camera. It's not my style of hybrid shooting. I think that these box cinema cameras are cool and interesting, and I will happily use them from time to time when appropriate. But my bread and butter, my sweet spot is more photography style bodies that shoot great video. Now, why should you be excited about the Nexus G1? Well, because by all accounts, they're trying to cram everything possible into this camera. But that's probably where I would, I'm not going to hold my breath on that one, because the amount that they're trying to put into this thing is kind of absurd. Basically, every input, every output, everything you could ever want packed into one camera. And a lot of the promotional materials are these renderings, but at the end of the video, they do show that it is real to some degree. It does exist. There's a physical thing out there. But as far as shipping date, price, all that, it's all kind of unknown. So this is one of those like, hey, I guess it's more of like a fantasy. Think of it that way. Imagine, is something like this, swappable mounts. I think it even has built-in ND filters, that's like my biggest number one thing, but it actually might not. I'm trying to remember if it does or not. I would imagine it does, considering the amount of other stuff they've jammed into this thing. But you can see it's crazy the amount that they're trying to do, and I hope that they're able to pull it off. I don't know the people behind it, if they have the technical expertise or the manufacturing resources to actually deliver something like this. And even if they could, I can't even imagine what the price would end up being. Maybe $5,000 would be my hope. I can't imagine it being any lower than that. And even if it were like $3,000, like that's right on par with what Blackmagic is already doing with the Pixis. So it's got to be more than that. If this thing ends up costing $10,000, I don't really know who'd be into it at that point. But regardless, I wanted to make the video just pointing you in the direction of it, because it could be something to keep an eye on. I wouldn't necessarily pre-order it. I wouldn't get too excited. I wouldn't start, planning out future shoots and thinking, oh my gosh, this would be so amazing for my project that I have coming in 3 weeks. It's not that kind of thing. It's just an interesting, fascinating thing that's being worked on somewhere by some people, and you maybe want to check it out, because that's, I don't know, just staying in touch with stuff that's happening is part of the job, is part of the work, is just being aware of what else is out there, because then if what you're using is the right tool for the job, or maybe there is a better alternative coming, or maybe you see something else on the horizon that also gets you excited, and you can start weighing those decisions of what you want to spend your money on and how you want to shoot and all that kind of stuff. For right now, I would definitely, for this style, I think opt for something like the Blackmagic Pixis, which seems to be more or less all of these features. However, that's not for everybody either. It's not for me personally. I'm not running out to buy a Pixis, although I do think they're very cool. And someone left a comment saying that I don't give Blackmagic enough credit. And that is true. I don't talk about them enough, but also there's missing features that for me do matter a lot. And it's the two big ones, IBIS and autofocus. So those are more common now in the photography hybrid style cameras, less common in the cinema style cameras. And so it just ends up being that kind of deal breaker for me. For as great as the Blackmagic cameras are and could be, and I'm sure the image quality is exceptional, and I know there's people that love shooting Blackmagic, for me, if I'm not having reliable autofocus, if I don't have IBIS, that's kind of a deal breaker. And even more so beyond that, on the Pixis, I believe, they got rid of the built-in ND filters. So that's one more strike against that style camera. One of the reasons I love Blackmagic and the Ursa Mini and some of the other products they have is the built-in ND filters. So if you take those away and I'm still not getting autofocus and I'm not getting IBIS, well, now I'm getting an image sensor that may be great, may be exceptional, and maybe it's got the inputs and outputs that you want, but I'm more interested in something that feels comfortable to snap a photo as well as just as comfortable to shoot a video. And I will hammer it home for the 1,000th time. To me, that is the hybrid production. You can have your own preference. Everyone does. A lot of clients look at a hybrid style camera and think you're taking pictures, and maybe that's not the show that you want to put on. Maybe you want to show up looking more like a video crew with cinema cameras and have that stamp of approval. For me, that's less of a concern. It's less of a consideration. For me, it's the ease of use. It's the simplicity of the setup, of the teardown, the cost associated with all the accessories, because it's never just the cost of the camera. It's the camera plus everything that goes along with it. How long does it take to set up? How much did you have to pay extra? How big is all that stuff? How heavy is it? Is it taking up more space in the case? Is it easy to fly with? All of those things end up weighing on me more than, is this a cinema camera or is it a photography camera? I don't really care how you label it. If it shoots good video and it takes photos and it has the features I need, that's what I'm after. Does it work in my model of production? And I think there's a lot of people like that out there. It's not the necessarily coolest because it's not the most expensive stuff. I think there's a lot of people who just lust after the expensive gear because it looks cool in your behind the scenes photos. But honestly, I don't really care that much about cool BTS shots. I care about creating content, being productive, and less about flexing behind the scenes. So the Nexus G1 maybe is something you're into. I'm probably not, but I'm still staying aware of it because why not? It looks pretty neat, and if they're successful with it, that's what I do. I wish them success. I want this to be a successful project for them. However, time has told me there's been many Digital Bolex is the one that comes to mind. There's plenty of people who've tried to make cameras and start up third-party, I don't even know what you'd call them at that point, just starting up camera companies, and they come and go. And there's the kind of major ones. I mean, Red was certainly a startup at one point in time, and they made their way in the industry. Now they're just Nikon. Blackmagic, dipped their toe in the camera world and made a splash, and has, I don't know, by my perspective, seemingly has become successful. But there's plenty of others who have tried to do something, and they usually have like a Gen 1, a Gen 2. What's the other? Zcam is out there, and Kinefinity. There's a few of these kind of odds and ends type companies that put stuff together that certain people love, but it just never seems to catch on in the same way that obviously Canon, Nikon, Sony, Lumix, etc., Blackmagic for that point. So hopefully Nexus is successful. I want them to be. I think competition is good. The more options, the better, especially if it can come in at a price point that is competitive considering all the features they're trying to cram into it. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. Check it out. See if it's what you'd be after. And let me know your thoughts. I'd be curious to hear them.